Welcome to the Social Engineer Podcast, a Human Element Series. This is episode 267. I'm Chris Hadnaghi, CEO and founder of Social Engineer LLC, the Innocent Lives Foundation, and the Institute for Social Engineering. And I've been podcasting since 2009, if you can believe that. I'm old. I feel it too. As always, our company, Social Engineer, sponsors this episode and all the podcasts, and I want to invite each and every one of you to check out humanbehaviorcon.com. I'm super excited about this conference. You might remember back right before COVID, we ran HubiCon. It was an awesome event, and now we're bringing it back. We have a one-day version of HubiCon, and I got a really exciting announcement. This is the only U.S. event for Joe Navarro. So if you're interested in learning from the master, you got to come to HubiCon. It's down here in Orlando. It's at Rice Pavilion at Rollins College, October 30th. Tickets are only $249. Limited seating is 180 seats in the pavilion that we rented. So we're going to be covering a whole day with Joe, Dr. Abby, and myself, and it's going to be all about using nonverbals, influence, elicitation, and pretexting to become a master communicator. It's going to be a phenomenal event. I'm really excited about it. Finally bringing it back so many years after the pandemic. So humanbehaviorcon.com, or you can find a banner on top of social-engineer.com for more information. And if you're an enthusiast and you love social engineering, then you should be in our Slack channel. The link is in the show notes, but we have a couple thousand people in there every day just talking about SE and asking questions. It's family friendly and legal. So if that sounds like you, why don't you join us and you'll have a good time there too. And I want to invite everyone listening to take a moment to go visit innocentlivesfoundation.org. I have a couple exciting announcements about the nonprofit there. If you haven't heard about our nonprofit, we've been running it for 6.5 years, and our mission is to help law enforcement geolocate and find people who traffic children and create child abuse material. And we've done over 520 cases. So I'm really excited about that event there, about our group there. But we have an event coming up in September. It's going to be our second annual ILF Gala. And this one's really exciting. So last year we had a wonderful band called the Action Figures. They're made up of all these celebrities that actually have action figures. That's where they came up with the name from, but they're all musicians. And they came in and they fell in love with ILF so much that this year they offered their studio, which is a big thing called the Woodshed. It can fit about 200 people in there. And we're going to have, it's going to be like not a fancy gala. I'm calling it the Grunge Gala, but John Mitchell hates that. So we're not allowed to officially say that, but you're going to be coming, listening to some live music. We're going to have a couple auctions, some really good time there. So it's September 20th. You can go to innocentlivesfoundation.org, get more information about it there. Come out, join us, meet some of the folks that are in the band, the ILF and the other folks that will be out there supporting us. And we look forward to seeing that event happen again this year. And if you like the music on the podcast, it's none other than the best rock and roll band, Clutch. Everyone knows the story. The lead singer, Neil, helped me start ILF back 6.5 years ago. But I've loved them since I was 17, and we're fortunate enough to have their music on the show. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up and a like, and keep your ideas coming and suggestions, because they really do help us find guests and pick out topics that you're interested in. Which brings us to our guest today. May Brooks-Kempler. She's a cybersecurity expert who's transformed her early curiosity, which is hacking 90s computer games, I can't wait to get into that, into a distinguished cybersecurity career. As a board member of ISC2, an educator and a CISO, and the founder of the Think Safe cyber community, she dedicated to making the online world a safer place for everyone. May, thank you for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me. And now I have to extend my trip to the States in October.
You have to.
It is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I won't say I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, me neither.
So May, tell me, this is the first question I ask every time we have a guest on this episode. How did you get to where you are today? Like, what's your origin story?
By a very weird twist of fate. Like, I was absolutely convinced I was going to go to med school. After I was raised in Israel, I went to the IDF, 8200, all the usual suspects for a cybersecurity expert. But I was absolutely convinced that I was going to go to med school. I actually started my biology BA just to save up time during my service. And then a friend of mine said, we're starting a new team, information security, because it's 20-something years ago, so we didn't call it cyber. How about it? You want to in? I was like, sounds cool, but what's that?
Yeah.
Basically, because I came from a very strong telecom background, but I had no idea what information security is. So that sort of started my journey. And then I realized that what I used to do in the 90s with Commander Keen and pushover and finding cheats and whatever. Apparently it's called hacking. Apparently, I didn't know that. And that basically led me to where I am today.
So you're back in IRC days, right? Because, I mean, there's probably some younger listeners here who don't even know what IRC is, but I remember those days. It was like the Wild West on IRC, right?
Oh, it was so cool. You know that they actually closed down ICQ? It made me
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was published this week, and it made me very, very sad.
Oh, I think a moment of silence.
Yeah, you should.
For ICQ. There we are. Yeah, that's sad. It is sad. Yeah.
It is sad. It is. Yeah. So
many of our origin stories start with that ICQ, right?
So it started with IRC, then switched to ICQ, and still holds a place in my heart. Yeah. It doesn't exist anymore. It's very sad. Yeah.
So you definitely. So then, what were you doing? Like you were finding cheat codes for popular games and things like that, and that's kind of like what got you interested in this part of.
Well, basically, I'm a pretty competitive person. Sometimes it's a very good thing. Sometimes not so much. I usually compete mostly with myself. Like if you know if you know the language teaching app Duolingo, I'm on some like 1,680 days in a row that I haven't missed a lesson.
What?
Yes, that's kind of insane.
That is insane.
And now even the thought of losing my streak is like, because I once lost my streak after 2 years, and that was heartbreaking. So I tend to get into very competitive things with myself. Usually I only compete with me.
I love the story.
So with Commander Keen and other games, I just wanted to get ahead.
So what language are you learning now?
Now I finished my Arabic course. It wasn't very practical, I have to say, because I live in the UAE. So I said, finally, I'll get a chance to practice my high school Arabic. No one here speaks Arabic. So that's a problem. Since the beginning, I started with French, and I'm still in French, and I love French. And now because my son decided that he doesn't want French in school, he wants Spanish. So I'm doing Spanish as well.
Excellent. So okay. That's good.
Keeps me busy. Gives me able to travel, which is good.
And what I've heard, at least read from some science magazines, is learning other languages opens up different regions of our brains and helps us to have some critical thinking and other things like that. So it's kind of a cool hobby to have.
It is. And to be honest, one of my grandmothers spoke like fluent 6 languages, but that's not that impressive because the other one spoke as if she was a native speaker. I think it was something like 7 were like a native speaker, and another 3, 4 that she said, well, yeah, I can get by. No, she was fantastic. She could like speak, but as far as she's concerned, if she makes mistakes, it's not good enough. So.
Oh, I see where you get your personality from.
Yeah. It's all grandma's fault.
Yeah, all grandma's fault.
Yeah, they were both amazing ladies.
How do you go from just joining like an InfoSec team, like when you were younger, to being a CISO, to starting a company? Like what's that? How did you make that leap? And being on the board of ISC2, IC Squared, sorry.
No, you're right. IC2, we were rebranded last year. Well, I think I was fortunate, and you are the same. We started out a very long time ago. We started out when there were no clear career path, like you do something and that's what you're going to do in the next 20 years. So I started in penetration testing. To be honest, I didn't like it. I never liked it. I preferred social engineering. I loved. I still do. But penetration testing, at some point, I found it very repetitive and sort of boring. So I didn't like it. So when I left the IDF, I said, okay, what will I do now? I knew that I liked cybersecurity, but didn't really know what I like about it. So I started as a consultant / pre-sale and sales. I hated the sales part. I said, no sales for me. Went only to pre-sale and architecture. And then my eldest daughter was born. That was almost 15 years ago. And I got an offer to go to be a team leader in a new consulting company. And they wanted me to do like everything from architecture to GRC. Okay, we had other people who knew architecture. I actually liked the risk part of the GRC. So we started the team. And from there, I pivoted to another CISO as a service at first and consulting positions. And then I became a CISO. And then I found something that was very frustrating for me. security awareness has always been one of the things that I truly believed can make a huge difference in an organization's security structure. And I couldn't find a company that did like an all-in-one solution. I wanted one company to come over, do the annual training and the computer-based training and infographics and social engineering tests and tabletop and whatever. And there was no such company, and phishing simulation and everything. I said, well, if there isn't one, I'll build one. And that's the story behind Helena. It started me being a frustrated CISO and creating things for myself. And then at some point I said, why am I creating it for myself? Why don't I start a company? So that was the story behind that. And then we relocated to the UAE, and I decided now it's time to do other things as well.
Frustration is always the leads, for some people, leads to some great things, right? I mean, it's kind of the same with me. I was like you. I was an exploit writer and a penetration tester, and I found out I really didn't have a knack for coding. I was better with people. So that's how the social engineer framework got built. That's how this company started. Like, it's just the same thing. I got frustrated with what I was doing and said, let's create something new, right? You are right. We came up at a time that was much different than young people today, because now, like, you really can't do the things that we did back in those days to practice. I mean, I'm sure just like you, we weren't malicious. We weren't ever doing things to hurt other people, but it was also not a lot of laws around checking a server out, so you did it sometimes, right? And so why do you think, as a CISO, so as a former CISO, and now you own a company, but you have that experience in there, why do you think a busy CISO would spend so much time on building a security awareness community in their company?
Well, I think it's one of the quickest wins. As CISOs, it's very hard to sort of prove our worth. And that's part of my doctorate research, actually. How can cybersecurity positively impact the business bottom line? Because we can't continue going around saying the sky is falling, and then there's an incident and they don't fall. We have to do something better. So I think that creating a security awareness community or a security awareness program in the company, first, it helps position the CISO in a very out there sort of way. Everyone knows the CISO if he's the right person to do it, and they can ask him questions and communicate with him. So it's a great positioning tool. It also reduces the risk. We know that at the end of the day, over 90%, and depends on which stat we use, but as a security awareness person, I will say 95% of all security incidents involve the human factor. And we know that. It could be targeted and it could be by mistake, but it involves the human factor at some point. Now, I'm not saying that security awareness is a silver bullet. We all know it's not. But if I can reduce the probability, and by doing security awareness trainings and programs, you can have people as sort of people all over the organization are suddenly your first line of defense. So instead of being the weakest link, they are now the strongest link. So that's sort of why I always invested a lot in creating those programs.
I love that messaging, by the way. It's something we hold very dear here at Social Engineer, because we feel that anybody who thinks their people are the weakest link, they probably have not put enough effort into making them a strong force to protect that barrier. So what would you say is a great security awareness model? Like, what should it include? I'm not asking for everything, but like, what should it include that you would look at that and go, yeah, this company's doing it right?
Looking at the other side and thinking, what's in it for them? At the end of the day, when I get paid to be as a CISO, I get paid to do my job. And I've never seen the chief financial officer come up to me and tell me, oh, May, can you review our finance sheets this quarter? Well, thank God. I have my own problems. But seriously, he's doing his job. But I can't do my job if not 100% of people in the organization are involved. So for me, starting from that point of view and making sure that everyone, that when I build the program, I think of the other side and I think what they're concerned with, what would impact them, how would they take whatever it is I'm providing to their personal lives. Because at the end of the day, if you're aware in your personal life and you understand, for example, why two-factor authentication is so important, you won't object to the organization implementing 2FA. But if you don't understand the logic and you don't use it on your day-to-day life, you're not going to do it in the organization. You'll just have a little note with your password somewhere. So people need to understand the logic. I'm not trying to turn them into security professionals.
Right.
They have their own job. But I think that today, when we look at security awareness and cybersecurity threats, it's very similar to road safety. Everyone needs to know that. I mean, I have no idea how my car works. I have no idea. But I know that if I press the right one, it will go faster because that's the accelerator. And if I press the left pedal, it will stop. That's it. And I know to look right and left before I cross the road and things like that without being an engineer. I don't have to be an engineer to be safe when I cross the road. And I don't have to be an engineer or a security expert to be safe online.
I love that analogy. That is I'm going to probably steal that from you. That's a great analogy.
You can. I said it on my TEDx talk, so you can take it. It's fine.
I'll give you credit for it. But I love it. I love using analogies because sometimes they really hit the point home with people. So this question we get asked a lot in our company. So I'd love to hear your take on it. If I'm a young person sitting here listening to this, or I'm even not a young person, I'm a person listening to this podcast, and I want to get into InfoSec. I want to get into cybersecurity. I want to do something as a career. I want to start a career. What is your advice to start a career here in this industry?
Oh, wow. That's a fantastic question. I think for me, it's all about passion. And that's why when someone calls me up and tells me, I want to go into cybersecurity, I always ask them, why? Because your whys are very important. If you want to do it for the money, there are easier ways to make money. Guaranteed. Cybersecurity is not an easy industry. Yes, it's very lucrative, but it's not for everyone. And you have to love it. And because it's so innovative and it changes all the time. If you don't love it, if you're not passionate about it, you won't get to that lifelong learning point of view, and you won't continue to evolve and grow and research. And then you'll be very mediocre, and then you'll be very frustrated. So for me, the first question is why? Once someone has a very clear why they want to go into cybersecurity, then I try to help them by understanding their personality. For example, I'm completely wrong for penetration testing, and I think you're the same because I look at the bigger picture. I'm good at looking at big picture. I'm not good at trying to find the bits and the bytes. That's not me. That's why I'm on the board of directors of ISC and not creating, I do create content, but I'm not good at very small things. I like looking at the big picture. That's my personality. That's why I'm very wrong for penetration testing, and I find it very boring. On the other hand side, I have a very good friend. He's a hacker. He's been doing it for 20 years. He absolutely loves it. Said, if I had to do risk management, I would kill someone. I would die. How do you do it? Because it's fascinating for me. So I think that you have to understand what your capabilities are, what your passions are, and try and find the path that is right for you. And it might not be the most lucrative path. It might not be the most prestigious path, but it's the right one for you. And I think that's how I would do it. And yes, today it's very different from when we started out. When we started out, we had certifications. Now this year it's 30 years for the CISSP. I'm very proud of that as a CISSP and as a board member. But it's not the only certifications. There are other certifications today. There are full-on academic programs that can direct you in that direction. But I have to say that one of the things that I found most useful in my career is actually my MBA. Because in my MBA, I studied business. I studied marketing. I studied consumer behaviors. And those are all things that I find very applicable to my day-to-day life. As a consultant, as a CISO, obviously as a board member. So yes, absolutely. Study what you love and take it into this world of cybersecurity. There are so many niches you can find yourself in.
I like the thought process there, because a lot of times that's actually new and unique way of thinking of it. Your way, asking them the why and then finding the the thing that they're passionate about, or just understanding their personality. I've seen that happen here in this company, right? Thinking after you were talking, I'm like, wow, that's such a great way of approaching it, because I've seen people that come work here and they thought the job was going to be one thing. They're in their heads, it was like mission impossible. And then it's 90% writing reports and sitting on the phone, and they're like, oh, sad trombone. And then they're not motivated to do the job. And it's like, they don't last long. So I love the way you think about that, is like finding out, why they want to do this job. And like you said, if it's money, there's probably a lot easier ways to go make that money than doing this, that are at least going to be less frustrating and less, mentally tiring. So, wow, I like that. We're going to have to put that into an article or something somewhere. That's really good advice for folks. You have a CyberWise parenting course coming up, right? That
Yes.
I'm very, especially with what we do with ILF, I'm very curious about what you're doing with that. Can you tell us about what that is and what made you create that?
Absolutely. Well, about, I think 6 or 7 years ago, friends of mine started coming over and telling me we're about to buy our kids their first smartphone. How do we secure that? And I'm like, I don't know. And another friend of mine came over, and she has a law firm with like 10 lawyers. She asked me, how can I secure the law firm? I don't know. I know how to secure a law firm with 500 lawyers.
Yeah.
Like, that's my skills. And someone I said, okay. I started researching those things, like how do you keep your kids safe? How do you keep an SMB safe? How do you keep your home safe? Now, obviously, as a professional, I have the tools to protect myself, my family, my friends, but those are not applicable for the general population. So I started researching that, and I said, okay, it makes no sense that no one is giving that advice to the general public. So that sort of led me to, okay, I'm doing security awareness as a profession. Now let's take it to a personal level. And I started delivering talks in schools and to parents and old age homes, etc. And that started to grow and grow, and it grew to the TEDx talk that was 4 years ago, I think. And from there, it led to writing the book that is actually coming up real soon in the US. It's going to be called Think Safe Cyber, the ultimate guide for online safety. And that led to starting the Think Safe Cyber community. And today we have about 25,000 members.
Wow.
And the one thing that I really love about this community is, at first I did spend a lot of time there, but today I actually got so many volunteers from the cybersecurity community that are also volunteering there that people think that I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn all the time. I'll tell you a secret. I'm there usually once a week. I create posts.
Yeah.
And I schedule them.
Yeah.
And then people think, whoa, how do you do your job if you're always on Facebook? No, I'm really not that much on Facebook. So, but today I'm very fortunate that there are so many volunteers. And last year we had almost 100 volunteers went to schools. And each went, and we created content for them, and we worked with the Israeli Internet Association and with the Israeli Police Force to create that content and deliver it in schools. So that led to this. But the thing is, with parents, some parents are very much involved. Some parents would go to talks and be involved in the schools, etc. But the thing is, when I looked at the content out there, because a lot of parents asked me, okay, how can we take it to the next level, to a practical level, and not just follow the group and every time you put a little nugget, we'll take it. So I said there must be courses like that. And I reviewed a lot of courses. Most of them are 10, 15 hours. Now, don't get me wrong. I can talk about cybersecurity for 290 hours because I have a course 290 hours. People pay me to talk about cybersecurity for 290 hours. Yeah. But the majority of people, especially parents, really don't care if it's symmetrical encryption or asymmetric and what's the difference. They really don't care.
They don't.
I did the same process that I did when I created the TED Talk. So when I created the TEDx Talk, you have 10 minutes to deliver something that usually you have an hour. Yeah. And people think, oh, that's easy. No, it's much easier to talk for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours and not for 10 minutes, because that has to be it has to be laser focused. So I actually spent a lot of time thinking of what will go into this CyberWise parenting course, because I wanted to create something that is easy to understand, that is practical, that is useful, that is not too technical, because you don't need, my belief is that you don't need technical skills, my belief is that it's mostly about being aware of the problem and talking to your kids and using technology. Yes, but that's not the solution because it's not a technological problem. It's a behavioral problem. So that's how I created the course, and I launched it actually less than 24 hours ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about it. It's a pre-launch. It's a quiet launch. Maybe we shouldn't say it now. So now it's not that quiet. But yeah, I was very excited about it because it's been something that's been on my mind for the last 3-4 years. And I finally decided to allocate the time. So I actually cleared my schedule for about 2 weeks, creating the content, reviewing the content, recording, and etc. And now it's up and running. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that too, because it's something we get asked over at ILF a lot, at the Innocent Lives Foundation. Parents will constantly ask us for help and guides on things on how to protect their kids, or, just creating more security around their children's environment while they're online. So this might be something that we can really recommend, and be great. That would be awesome, because we write some blogs on it, but it's not our main mission. Our main mission is finding those predators. So we haven't taken the time to create a lot of that content. And why redo the wheel? Why recreate the wheel if you have someone who's already done it? So
thank you.
we should talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the work that you're doing is so important because people don't even realize how many predators are out there.
Yeah.
And I have those conversations with parents all the time, and like, oh, why would anyone target my kids? They're not going to target your kids. They're going to target whoever they can find. It's not personal. And that's what I tell people about security, like security incidents in general, ransomware, extortion, whatever. It's not personal. No one wanted to find your video, but they did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good message. It's interesting. So we'll have to talk offline about that program, because I think there's a lot that can be done there. I mean, parents, I think today we're all, and I'm sure it's the same where you travel to. Everyone's so busy. They've got so many things going on at one time. And then you have this, like over here in the US right now, sextortion on young preteens and teens is a huge thing. And parents are, what do I do? And they, go online. How do I protect my kids? And there's, like you said, laundry list of dozens of things to do, and they're confused. So it makes them and do nothing, right? They just do nothing because there's too much information. So having something concise that can help a parent learn what to do, this is a big deal. So I think that's a really nice move. Glad that your path kind of took you down there. And we'll have to put a link to your TED Talk also in the show notes. That will be important so people can go see that.
Thank you. Absolutely.
It is amazing, though, when you were saying that, when I gave I don't know if they did this to you too, when I gave my TEDx talk, they assigned someone to me, and that person would say, what's the topic? I gave him the topic, and he said, can you record yourself? And I did, and it was 45 minutes. He's like, great. Now we're going to get that down to 12 and a half. And I'm like, that's impossible. I'm like, so he actually did this crazy thing for me. He went through, and I don't know how much time he must have took, but he edited that speech by cutting out chunks of audio that were repetitions or things I didn't need to say or fluff, and got that 45 minutes or whatever it was down to like 22. And it was choppy, of course, because it wasn't smooth. But he's like, now when you listen to that, he's like, now cut that down in half. And we did it. Yeah. But it was it taught me so much about being much more concise with your words. And you can get so much more out there.
I absolutely love the process of working on my TEDx. It was fantastic because I took 1 hour and turned it into 11 minutes. I really tried to get it under 10. I failed, but the following year I actually did the same talk, but this time I got it in 9:55.
Wow, really?
And I didn't speak. It's not because I was talking super fast. I could do that. No. I actually took down a few words that were not that accurate, a few sentences that were redundant. And I think that made me a much better speaker. I also believe, I mentioned before when I talked about cybersecurity, but I believe in lifelong learning. It's not by mistake that I use Duolingo, and I play the piano, not very well, but I do play the piano, and I try to learn something new every day. And for me, public speaking is something that I really enjoy doing, and I do it quite a lot. But the thing that people find very much surprising, two things that people find surprising about it. One is I used to be absolutely terrified of public speaking. Absolutely. Like, ask me anything you want. Ask me to play the piano on stage, no problem. Ask me to sing on stage, no problem. To speak, my words, are you insane? So that was me about 10, 12 years ago. And today, that's what I do for a living. So one thing I enjoy it because I think you can be of better service to others. Use your experience, deliver it in a good way. And the other thing that people tell me, but why do you need that? You've already done so many talks and you've done TEDx. And I take a course, either a private one or a public one for public speakers each and every single year. Each year. And I've been doing it for the past, 6, 7 years, every year, because I always believe there's a higher level and you can get to a high level and a better level in everything you do, professionally or personally. So that is something that I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. And that's one of the things that I do every year.
I love that. That's fascinating. What got you from being the person who was so nervous you never wanted to speak on stage? Like, how did you make that transition to becoming a public speaker?
Well, I have to say here, I have to give a big shout out to Avi Weissman. He's the CEO and founder of cybersecurity College in Israel. Now, he knew me when I started out because the first thing I did in information security was a course called Hacking Defined Experts. That was 20-something years ago. That was part of my professional training in the IDF. And that's when we met. About 10 years later, I called him up and told him I want to go and do the CISO course, the 290-hour course. Said, well, no, you're going to do the CISSP. No, Avi, I'm not gonna. No, I will fail. Forget it. Absolutely terrible, terrible imposter syndrome. And he pushed me and pushed me. And he said, if you'll go to CISO now, you can probably teach the course. He was right. And you'll just get bored and frustrated and leave. No, you're doing the CISSP. And before I even finished the CISSP, the boot camp, he said, well, now you're going to teach it. Like, that's cute.
Wow.
That's cute.
Okay.
And he was very determined to have me as an instructor. And that's how I started teaching. And from teaching, the leap to public speaking is relatively easy. But I actually remember the first time I had to teach, the first course was CSP. I was so nervous. I was a wreck. But I did it anyway, because I truly believe that the only way to grow is to go outside your comfort zone. That was also part of the reason we decided to relocate to the UAE. Because everything was easy and nice and smooth, and suddenly relocated to a new country without my connections, without my friends, without my family, reinventing myself and everything I do and building those connections all over again. That's the best way I know to grow.
I love it.
So,
as we finish up, I have a couple of questions. First, what's the best way for people to connect with you and kind of find out what you're doing next?
LinkedIn.
Okay, LinkedIn. So we'll put a link to that there for folks. And we ask on this. Instagram. Okay.
I actually started an Instagram profile 2 weeks ago. After many people told me, why don't you share your stories, your insights? And like, LinkedIn is not exactly the place to do it. People wants to hear you're going on a board meeting in Tokyo. What's that like? Like, what's the behind the scenes? So I said, you know what? That's a good idea. And I opened it up on the lounge on my way to Tokyo. So that's where I share my security insights and things like that. So those are the two best channels to reach me.
That's awesome. I will put links to both of those. And I'm sure, like all of us in this industry, that you wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for a few, maybe one or two select mentors that really helped you to get to where you are. Who would you say are your most important mentors in your life?
Ooh. Well, I was very fortunate, I have to say. I already mentioned Avi, who's very important. I was also very fortunate to have a guy called Oren Bratt. Oren is a leading cybersecurity professional. And basically, he came back from a trip to the States. And our CEO, I just finished the army. I joined a company called To Be Secure. And they told me, okay, wait a couple of days. Oren is coming. He'll figure out what to do with you. And basically, Oren comes over and our CEO tells him, you have something in your room, build it. And that was like building the and he was my mentor ever since. And we sort of closed circles when he joined Helena, my company. Before I relocated, he was working for me for about 2 years. So it was incredible. I still call him a mentor because he's absolutely incredible. And last but not least, I call him the forefathers of cybersecurity worldwide and in Israel, a guy called Itzik Kochav. He was the CISO for the largest HMO in Israel for over 20 years. Before that, he was in the Israeli Air Force. And I actually remember the first time I had to call him to get him to teach a course in the CISO program. And Avi Weissman told me, well, call Itzik and get him to come over. I don't understand. You want me to call Itzik? No, he has a secretary? No, that's his number. Give him a call. You want me to call Itzik Kochav? Like, let's call God and that's it. And Itzik and today he's a friend and a mentor, and he is such an amazing person. So I was very fortunate to have a lot of good friends throughout the years. And I think it's all about community at the end of the day.
I love it. Those are some great stories. And last but not least, books. Have you read any? And it doesn't have to be about this topic. It could be just something you really love. Do you have any favorite books that you've read or are reading?
Oh, I have so many. Well, I have your book that I really love, but it's not here. It's in my room, so I don't remember the name.
Is it the blue one? Is it that one? The human hacking?
Yeah. That was the first one I had. Yeah, so I really love that one. What else do I have here? Oh, The Perfect Weapon is a great book. Oh, that's a great read by Kim Zater. It's about the Stuxnet attack. It's fascinating. She's actually a journalist, and she's an investigative journalist, and she did such phenomenal work with this research and this book. So I really love that. And Do You Talk Funny? David Nahill, he actually has a talk about it. And so he's one of my favorite. Oh, and my favorite, Start With Why. Simon Sinek. Start With Why. Because I think that what makes us successful people, if we understand our why.
Yeah.
Why are we doing what we're doing?
Yeah. Great suggestions and ones that we haven't had yet. So this is awesome. I love it. So this is really, especially The Perfect Weapon. I haven't heard of that one. So that will be really good. Amazing. And Simon Sinek, his stuff is just always good. I like reading his material.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah. May, I can't thank you enough. This was a fascinating conversation. I think, like you said, we could have probably stayed on here and talked for hours about it because we're both pretty passionate about this topic. But
now you have to come on my podcast. See,
I would love to. I would love to do it.
Social engineering. It works.
Reciprocity, right? So now I have to. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, though. And I'm sure this is going to be a great episode for people, and especially your thoughts on getting into the industry. I think that's really going to help a lot of folks who want to start a career here. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for joining us this month. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. And come back next month and we'll have another security professional on this series that we can all learn some things from. Until then, stay safe. See you.